Hello and welcome to part 11 of installing a Linux system. We're going to look at files today and what they mean on Linux, because everything in Linux is a file. So we're going to open Nemo, which is the file manager, and my computer is still working slow even after a restart. I'm going to open it full screen and we'll just have a quick look at how it comes. Now normally this is what Nemo looks like when you first start. I'd recommend that we make some changes to this to make it a bit easier to see. But before we go any further, you have your directory system down on the left hand side and the files within that. So here we're looking at my computer. In fact, we're looking at what is in my home group, so we can see that there. You've got various navigation sections at the top, and you've got buttons for how the files are going to be displayed along the side, and you can search for particular documents, and you can toggle how this looks, so you can see that it comes up with the path or just the name. Okay, so I want to actually make some changes to this to start off with. I prefer to look at the files like this, and I also prefer to have the permissions available. So if we go into view, we go into edit and we go to preferences. Okay, we can change a number of things here. The first thing I want to do is change the toolbar, which is here. Okay, and really I want everything shown, so I've got everything on. Okay, now what this has done is it allows me to open a terminal in the active window. This is a bit like in Windows File Manager. If you type CMD in the path, you'll get a terminal window in the path. I've shown the home button, so I can always come back home if I want to. Okay, and create a new folder as well. So I have a lot more in here. Right, let's go to the views. There's not really anything I want to change in this. This is as is. The behavior, again, you can change it to suit your requirements, but to me, most of these are as I normally keep them. Okay. Display, this is how I tend to see how they are displayed. This will do me. You can actually change them into the decimal long format. Let me actually open some files that might have something in it. Actually, that's a point. I don't think there are any files. Okay. Let's click on show hidden files. That's better. So you can actually see that we can change how things are displayed. Okay, on that. Okay, list columns. Now here I actually like to see the owner and the permissions. Okay, we can also show the octal permissions as well, and we can actually change the order in which all of this is shown. I'll come to why the owner is important later, and why the permissions are important later. Okay. Preview, again, I tend to just leave this as is. It works quite well and does what it needs to. Okay. I actually I'm now showing all the hidden files. Now, in Linux, everything, absolutely everything, is a file. Doesn't matter what it is, it's a file of some sort. Okay? And some files are hidden from view normally. And in Linux, to make a hidden file, you put a full stop, a dot before it. So .cache is hidden, for example. All of this is hidden. Okay, we'll actually look at some of this a bit later on, or we may look at some of this a bit later on. But what we're looking here is at all the hidden files. I'm going to leave this on at the moment because I don't actually have any real files to show you. I've got none that I've created. So let's have a look at what is the most important part of Linux. If I come down to Properties, I've selected Documents, okay, and I click on Permissions. Now this is the most important part of Linux. You can see that the owner is John, and then the group is John. Okay, that means that the owner and the group have certain rights on the file. Okay, if you're not part of the owner or the group, then you usually have much more limited rights. Okay, so the owner, I can create and delete files. Okay, as the group, I can access the files, but I can't do much with them apart from see them. Okay, and again, as a guest member, I can access the files. Okay, now this is shown over here in the permissions. Now the D at the start means directory. When you actually have a file, it's just a hyphen, a dash. And there is another type which is L, which is for a link file, and we might have a look at those a bit later, but it's very rare that you actually see one in your folders, but you might see them in the system files and so on. Okay, so what does all of this mean? Well, as I said, create and delete, read and write and execute. So the first three, read, write and execute, is what I can do here. Okay, now the group can read and execute, but they cannot write. And also guests can read and execute, but they cannot write. So this is the permission, which is easy to see, and this is the permission which you've probably heard about. It's about 755, 644, this type of thing. There are lots of different types of permissions based on, there we are, 644, okay, about what you can do. So if we have a look down here, okay, 755, this is fairly normal for directories and folders. Let me just close that for a moment. Okay, so most directories and folders will be 755. If it's a hidden or a special one, then there'll be different different permissions on that. So let's have a look at let's have a look at bash rc. You can see that this is quite literally just a text file. Okay, it's a resource file for the terminal, basically, on that. If we look at the permissions, you can see that owner and group is John, and we've got read and write access to this, but no execute. Okay, read and write. The group, John, okay, can only read it, so you can see the R here, So the read and write for me, read for the group, and read for guest access. Now, if I wanted to people to actually be able to execute this, I could click on here, and you can see that the execute flag has been set, and it's gone from 644 to 755. Okay, it's not a good idea to set that, so I'm going to take it off, and you can see it's reverted back. So as you change the permissions, it changes the octal permissions, and it changes the visual permissions. So for example, if I change it to read and write, you can see it's changed there, okay, or read only on there. Now notice this owner is very important, because if you're not the owner, you cannot actually do very much with the file. So let's have a look at the file system. Let's go somewhere interesting, etc. Let's do a nice list. Okay, and come down to some files. Let's just have a look at this. Okay, anything really interesting that we can have? Okay, here's bash. Now, as you can see, the owner is root. Okay, and the root has read-write access. Okay, everybody else can read it, but they can't do anything else. So the permission on that is 644. Okay, if we actually look at the permissions, it says you are not the owner, you cannot change these permissions. Okay, so that's quite important, and this is one of the reasons why viruses and Trojans and things like that are very difficult to get on Linux. It's because they have to be the owner to be able to change it, and unless you actually make them the owner, they can't change it. So it's very difficult. So as you can see, I can't change any of the permissions. I can only see what they're set to. Okay, so that's permissions, and it's an interesting way of using it. There's one other one I want to actually show, so we'll come back to home. Okay, and I'm going to change the bar at the top here. So you can see it starts with a slash, then the word home, then another slash, then my name. Okay, so slash actually stands for root, or the very beginning. You can see it here, slash. So this is the root. Okay, now my files that we were looking at here are in the home directory. Okay, and if you had other users, their usernames would appear here. So John, Fred, Mary, Jane, whatever, they would all appear here. Okay, if I double click on that, you can now see, especially if I take off the show hidden files, that it's virtually the same as here. The only difference is you can see the file system, the rubbish bin, and it's in alphabetical order. Okay, so that's a file system. This is called Nemo. There are a number of things you can change on it if you wish. Okay, show hidden files. I usually have that on the sidebar. You can actually change how it's displayed. You can change certain preferences, as we saw earlier. Okay, you can add a bookmark so you can come backwards and forwards to it, and of course, whoops, right, you can connect to a server if there is a server. You can have a look at the properties and so on. Okay, that's it for the files. Thank you for watching. My name's John, and I'll see you next time.